Good evening, dear listener. Tonight, we return once again to the forgotten folds of history in search of moments that shaped the world in quiet ways. Whether you're cozy in bed or listening with closed eyes, I'm glad you're spending this peaceful time here. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is in your part of the world. Are you just waking up or about to drift off with the past whispering in your ear? If you're enjoying these calm passages through time, please do subscribe. There are many more nights like this ahead. Long before alcohol had a name, long before it was measured or bottled, humans lived close to the land and followed the rhythm of seasons. They gathered fruits, grains, and honey, storing them carefully, often without knowing what time and warmth could create. In these early days, discovery happened quietly, without intention. Somewhere in the distant past, fruits left in a clay bowl began to change. The sweetness deepened, the smell softened. When tasted, it created a warm, unfamiliar feeling. The body slowed, the mind relaxed. No one rushed to understand it, they simply noticed. This was the beginning of fermentation, a natural process guided by time, air, and patience. Alcohol was not invented, it was discovered by accident, through stillness and waiting. In prehistoric communities, fermented drinks were likely shared in small amounts. There were no celebrations, no excess, only curiosity and quiet experience. These early drinks were weak, gentle, and deeply connected to nature. As humans learned to farm, fermentation became more familiar. Grains like barley and wheat were stored for long periods. When mixed with water and left undisturbed, they transformed. The liquid became cloudy, warm, and calming. This early beer was thick and nourishing, more like food than drink. In ancient Mesopotamia, people began fermenting grains deliberately. They did not drink to escape, they drank to settle. After long days of work, they gathered in silence, sipping slowly as the evening cooled. Clay cups were passed gently. Conversation was calm. Alcohol at this time was considered a gift of time. It required patience. Nothing could be rushed. This made it valuable, not powerful. In ancient Egypt, beer and wine became part of daily life. Workers who built temples and monuments were given measured portions. It was not indulgence, it was balance, a way to relax the body and quiet the mind at day's end. Wine made from grapes appeared slowly. Grapes were crushed by hand, juice collected, and left to rest in jars. Days passed, then weeks. The liquid darkened, softened, and matured. Wine became associated with evening calm and ritual, often shared during quiet gatherings. Egyptians believed fermented drinks were connected to the cycle of life and rebirth. Nothing was wasted, everything transformed. Alcohol symbolized change that happens gently, without force. In ancient China, rice wine emerged through similar patience. Rice, water, and time created a smooth, warming drink. It was consumed during ceremonies and reflective moments, never hurried, never loud. Across early civilizations, alcohol remained slow and respectful. It was not taken to overwhelm the senses, it was taken to soften them. These early cultures understood something important. Alcohol changes the body by slowing it. When respected, it encouraged rest. When rushed or abused, it disrupted balance. So they drank with care. As the sun set and firelight flickered, people sat quietly, cups warm in their hands. The night deepened, breathing slowed. Alcohol was not the focus, stillness was.
This gentle beginning shaped alcohol's role for thousands of years. It belonged to the evening, to reflection, to calm. As human societies grew more settled, their relationship with fermented drink became more intentional and more reflective. Among all early alcoholic drinks, wine emerged slowly, shaped by sunlight, soil, and time. It was not hurried. It required waiting, observation, and trust. In regions where grapevines grew naturally, people noticed that grapes carried sweetness unlike any other fruit. When gathered gently and crushed by hand, their juice flowed freely, rich and fragrant. Left alone in clay vessels, this juice began to change. Days passed. The air grew warm. The liquid darkened and softened, developing depth and warmth. This transformation was quiet. No flames, no force, only time working patiently. In ancient Egypt, wine became associated with evening calm and spiritual reflection. It was often reserved for priests, elders, and ceremonies. Wine jars were sealed carefully and stored in cool spaces, sometimes marked with symbols of the year and vineyard. This was not excess, it was care. At the end of long days, small gatherings formed. People sat close together, sharing simple food and quiet conversation. Wine was poured slowly. Cups were small. Each sip was followed by pause. The goal was not intoxication, but ease. Across the Mediterranean, wine culture spread naturally. In ancient Greece, vineyards covered hillsides warmed by the sun. Wine became a companion to discussion and thought. Philosophers gathered in the evening, reclining quietly, allowing conversation to unfold slowly. Greek thinkers believed balance was essential. Wine was diluted with water, reducing its strength. Drinking slowly was a sign of wisdom. Losing control was seen as forgetting oneself. In these gatherings, silence was valued as much as speech. Long pauses allowed thoughts to settle. Wine supported this rhythm by slowing the body and easing tension. As night deepened, lamps were lit. Shadows moved gently along walls. The atmosphere remained calm. Wine did not dominate the space, it rested within it. The Romans later adopted wine deeply into daily life. Vineyards expanded across their lands. Wine became more accessible, yet rituals remained. Workers drank watered wine in the evening. Elders drank more refined blends, aged patiently in wooden barrels. Roman households gathered at night to share meals. Wine was poured carefully. Conversations were calm and measured. Excess was discouraged, not through law, but through culture. Wine also entered religious ritual across many cultures. It symbolized transformation, time, and continuity. The grape became a symbol of patience, the vine a reminder of seasons. Beyond the Mediterranean, wine-like drinks emerged elsewhere. In Persia and Central Asia, grape and fruit wines were enjoyed quietly in gardens and courtyards, often under open skies. In ancient China, although rice wine was more common, grape wine was known and respected. It was served during moments of reflection rather than celebration. Across these civilizations, wine shared a common role. It belonged to the evening. It belonged to slowing down. It belonged to togetherness without noise. The production of wine taught humans something subtle, that not everything valuable is created quickly, that waiting improves depth, that care shapes outcome. These lessons carried forward into monasteries and quiet communities centuries later, where monks tended vineyards in silence, allowing wine to mature undisturbed. As the world slowly moved toward the medieval age, wine remained a bridge between labor and rest, between day and night. It helped mark the gentle transition into stillness. This part of alcohol's history is not loud or dramatic. It is calm and patient, like the slow turning of seasons. While wine grew from vines warmed by the sun, beer was born from the earth itself. Grains, barley, wheat, millet, were among the first crops humans learned to cultivate. They fed families, shaped villages, and quietly gave rise to one of the world's oldest fermented drinks. Beer did not begin as celebration. It began as nourishment. In early farming communities, grains were soaked, softened, and left to rest. Over time, people noticed that this resting grain-water mixture changed. It grew slightly sour, gently warm, and calming to drink. This early beer was cloudy, thick, and mild. It was closer to liquid bread than to modern alcohol. In ancient Mesopotamia, beer became part of daily life. Families brewed it at home, often led by women who guarded recipes passed down through generations. Brewing was slow and quiet work. Grain was crushed by hand, water was added carefully. The mixture rested without disturbance. There was no rush. Fermentation followed its own pace. Beer was consumed slowly, often through long straws that filtered out grain sediment. People gathered in the evening, sharing from common vessels. Conversation was gentle. The drink warmed the body and eased fatigue after long days of labor. Unlike wine, beer belonged to everyone. It crossed class boundaries. Farmers, builders, and craftsmen all shared it. In this way, beer became a symbol of shared humanity and simple rest. In ancient Egypt, beer was essential. Workers who built temples and pyramids received daily portions. It provided calories, hydration, and comfort. Beer was not a luxury, it was balance. Egyptian brewing was carefully managed. Large clay vats held fermenting grain mixtures. The air filled with warm, earthy scents. Brewers worked quietly, respecting the process. Beer was stored and distributed with care. Across Europe, beer followed the spread of agriculture. In cooler climates where grapes struggled to grow, grain thrived. Beer became the evening companion of northern villages. As centuries passed and societies shifted toward the early medieval period, brewing remained a household task. Each village had its own taste, its own rhythm. Brewing marked time. Grain harvests became future evenings of rest. Monasteries later played a key role in preserving beer traditions. Monks brewed beer not for excess, but for sustenance and hospitality. Silence surrounded their work. Brewing followed strict routines, mirroring prayer and meditation. Monastic beer was often consumed during fasting periods, when solid food was limited. It nourished without overwhelming. It supported quiet reflection. Beer halls, when they appeared, were not originally loud places. They were warm shelters. Firelight flickered. Wooden benches held tired bodies. Beer was poured slowly into heavy cups. People drank while listening rather than speaking. The drink encouraged stillness. It softened edges. Across cultures, beer taught an important lesson. Alcohol did not need to be rare or powerful to be meaningful. In its mild form, it supported daily balance. Beer belonged to ordinary life, to evenings after work, to shared silence, to rest earned through effort. As night fell over villages and fields, beer marked the transition from movement to stillness. Cups emptied slowly, fires dimmed, bodies relaxed. This quiet role of beer shaped alcohol's long history more than any festival or celebration. It was steady, reliable, gentle. As centuries passed and the ancient world slowly transformed, alcohol followed humanity into quieter, more structured spaces. Among the most important of these were monasteries, places of silence, routine, and careful attention to time. Within stone walls and candle-lit rooms, fermentation deepened into something new. Monks lived by rhythm. Bells marked hours. Work followed prayer. Nothing was hurried. This way of life suited alcohol perfectly, for alcohol, like reflection, requires patience. Within monastery gardens, grapes and grains were grown with care. Brewing and winemaking continued not for indulgence, but for nourishment, medicine, and hospitality. Every step followed order. Every task had its hour. It was in these quiet spaces that distillation slowly emerged. Distillation did not begin as a search for strength. It began as a search for purity. Early scholars and monks, influenced by ancient Greek and Arab knowledge, experimented with separating substances through heat and cooling. Water was purified. Oils were extracted. Eventually, fermented liquids were gently heated. When vapor rose and condensed, something clearer appeared. It carried warmth, intensity, and focus. This was the early spirit, not yet for drinking, but for healing. Early distilled alcohol was used as medicine. It preserved herbs, cleaned wounds, and warmed the body. It was known as aqua vitae, the water of life. It was respected, not consumed casually. Distillation required deep attention. Fires were kept low. Copper vessels were watched carefully. Night hours were preferred when distractions faded and silence deepened. The work matched the mood of darkness, slow, focused, and careful. Outside monasteries, distillation knowledge spread gradually. Scholars translated texts from Arabic into Latin. Techniques improved slowly, never rushed. Villages remained mostly connected to beer and wine. Spirits were rare and precious. When used, they were measured in drops, not cups. Medieval nights were dark and long. Oil lamps flickered softly. The distilled liquid glowed faintly in glass vessels. Monks observed it quietly, understanding that strength without control could disturb balance. Spirits carried power, and power required restraint. Over time, distilled alcohol began to appear in royal courts and among healers. Even then, it was approached carefully. Too much heat ruined it. Too much use overwhelmed the body. The monks understood something important. Alcohol could sharpen or soothe depending on intention. Fermented drinks slowed the body. Distilled spirits focused it. Both needed respect. Meanwhile, monasteries continued their calm brewing and winemaking traditions. Beer nourished travelers. Wine supported ritual. Spirits remained rare, reserved for moments of need. As winter nights stretched long and cold, small amounts of spirits warmed the chest and steadied breath. Used properly, they offered comfort without excess. This era shaped alcohol's deeper identity. It was no longer only nourishment or rest. It became a tool, one that demanded wisdom. In the quiet of stone halls, monks returned vessels to shelves, extinguished candles, and allowed the night to settle. Alcohol rested, aging slowly, undisturbed. This patience ensured that alcohol remained aligned with stillness rather than chaos. After their careful beginnings in monasteries and scholarly rooms, distilled spirits did not rush into common life. They moved slowly, carried by traders, healers, and travelers who respected their strength. Knowledge spread like a whisper, not a shout. Early spirits were clear and sharp, but even then, people noticed something important. When these liquids were left to rest in wooden containers, they changed. Time softened them. Harsh edges faded. Warmth deepened. This discovery shaped the future of spirits. In regions of Europe, brandy began to appear. Wine was distilled gently and then allowed to rest in wooden barrels. Oak absorbed part of the liquid and returned something calmer in exchange: color, aroma, patience. Brandy was not rushed to the cup. Barrels rested in cool cellars, undisturbed for months and years. In these dark spaces, alcohol learned stillness. Further north, where grapes were rare, grain spirits emerged. Barley and rye were distilled carefully, producing early forms of what would later become whiskey. These spirits were rough at first, but people learned to wait. Whiskey matured slowly in wooden casks. Each winter cooled it. Each summer warmed it gently. Seasons passed. The spirit breathed quietly with time. Across the sea, sugarcane spirits began to form in warmer lands. Molasses was distilled into early rum. Like others, it too learned balance through rest. Despite these developments, spirits remained limited. They were expensive, time-consuming, and powerful. Most people still drank beer or wine in the evening. Spirits were reserved for warmth, healing, or special moments. In taverns and homes, spirits were measured carefully. Small cups, slow sips. Firelight reflected softly through amber liquid. As trade routes expanded, spirits traveled farther. Yet everywhere they went, one lesson followed. Strength demanded patience. Aging became a quiet art. Barrels were stacked and forgotten. Cellars grew silent. Alcohol changed slowly, without instruction. People began to understand that spirits were shaped less by human hands and more by time itself. At night, distillers checked barrels by lantern light. They listened rather than acted. Too much interference ruined the process. This period defined alcohol's deeper character. Fermentation taught waiting. Distillation taught focus. Aging taught surrender. Spirits became symbols of time captured in liquid form. Evenings remained calm. Spirits were not for noise. They were for reflection, for warmth against cold nights, for quiet conversation. As centuries continued to turn, alcohol's role stayed rooted in rhythm rather than excess. As alcohol continued its slow journey through history, it found a home beyond monasteries and private houses. It entered shared spaces, taverns, inns, and roadside shelters, places where travelers rested and ordinary people paused at the end of long days. In their earliest form, taverns were not loud or crowded. They were simple rooms with wooden tables, low ceilings, and a single hearth at the center. Light was dim, voices were soft. The purpose was shelter, not celebration. Travel in the past was slow and tiring. Roads were long, nights were cold. When travelers reached an inn, they sought warmth, food, and rest. A cup of beer or watered wine was part of this comfort. It loosened stiff muscles and eased tired minds. Innkeepers brewed or stored alcohol carefully. Supplies were limited. Waste was avoided. Drinks were poured slowly and measured with care. Excess was discouraged, not by rules, but by necessity. In villages, taverns served as quiet meeting places. Farmers arrived after sunset, boots heavy with dust. They sat near the fire, holding cups in both hands. Conversation came in pauses. Silence was common. Alcohol here was not an escape. It was a transition, from work to rest, from movement to stillness. Beer remained the most common drink. Mild and nourishing, it supported calm rather than excitement. Wine appeared in regions where grapes were available. Spirits were rare and served in small amounts, often diluted. As towns slowly grew, Taverns adapted. They remained places of grounding. News was shared quietly. Agreements were made calmly. Arguments were rare, for people understood the value of peace. Music, when present, was soft, a single instrument, a low voice. Alcohol did not lead the moment, it followed it. Across cultures, similar spaces emerged. In East Asia, tea houses and rice wine rooms offered quiet rest. In the Middle East, coffee houses later replaced alcohol, but kept the same calm rhythm. In Europe, inns continued to shelter travelers through the night. The design of these spaces reflected their purpose. Thick walls, small windows, warm colors, everything encouraged slowing down. Alcohol fit naturally into this environment. It warmed hands, it softened breathing, it allowed the body to release the day. As night deepened, some guests retired to shared rooms, others lingered by the fire. Cups emptied slowly, no one hurried. The tavern was not a place to lose oneself, it was a place to find rest among others. This role of alcohol as companion to quiet gathering shaped social life for centuries. It balanced solitude and community. When morning came, cups were cleaned, fires rekindled, and alcohol returned to storage. The night's calm remained in memory. Across the world, as societies formed their own identities, alcohol became woven into rituals and traditions. These moments were rarely loud. They were intentional, symbolic, and calm. Alcohol was used not to overwhelm the senses, but to mark time, memory, and connection. In many cultures, alcohol appeared at life's thresholds, births, marriages, harvests, and farewells. Small amounts were shared to acknowledge change. The drink itself mattered less than the pause it created. In ancient Japan, rice wine, sake, was offered during ceremonies. Cups were small, movements were deliberate, silence carried meaning. The drink warmed the body gently while honoring ancestors and seasons. In parts of South Asia, fermented drinks made from palm, rice, or flowers were used during festivals that followed agricultural cycles. Drinking was slow and communal. Songs were soft. Fires burned low as night settled in. In indigenous communities across the Americas, fermented beverages made from maize or fruits were consumed with care. Elders guided their use. Alcohol was connected to earth and gratitude, not escape. In the Middle East, where alcohol later became restricted, early periods still included wine in religious and poetic settings. Wine symbolized longing, reflection, and the quiet search for meaning. In Africa, traditional brews made from sorghum or millet were shared in circles. Cups were passed gently. The act of sharing mattered more than the drink. In Europe, seasonal rituals included small amounts of wine or beer to mark harvest completion or winter's arrival. Drinking followed work. Rest followed drinking. Across these traditions, rules were often unwritten but understood. Excess broke harmony. Restraint preserved peace. Alcohol functioned as a bridge between people, between moments, between the visible and the remembered. Ritual drinking slowed time. It invited reflection. It created shared silence. As night deepened during ceremonies, cups were set aside. The drink had served its purpose. Attention returned to firelight, stars, and breath. These rituals taught generations that alcohol could carry meaning without dominance. It was a supporting presence, not the center. Even as societies modernized, echoes of these rituals remained. Toasts became brief pauses. Ceremonial cups remained small. The lesson endured. When alcohol is framed by intention, it supports calm rather than chaos.
As the world slowly moved toward the modern age, life itself began to change its rhythm. Days became faster, cities grew larger, work became more distant from nature.
In this shifting world, alcohol remained, but its role quietly transformed. In earlier centuries, alcohol followed time. Fermentation waited for seasons. Aging required patience. Drinking belonged to evenings and endings. In the modern age, however, time began to feel shorter. Waiting became difficult. Industrial methods allowed alcohol to be produced faster and in greater quantities. Distillation became efficient. Bottles replaced barrels. Labels replaced stories. Alcohol became easier to obtain and quicker to consume. Yet even as availability increased, something subtle was lost: the natural pause. In growing cities, taverns turned into busy bars. Light became brighter. Music became louder. The night no longer slowed as deeply as before. Alcohol, once a companion to rest, sometimes became a response to noise. Still, not all calm disappeared. Many people continued to treat alcohol with care. In quiet homes, a single glass at night remained a ritual, a pause after work, a moment of reflection. The old rhythm survived in small ways. Writers and artists of the modern era often described alcohol not as joy, but as contemplation: a glass beside a notebook, a drink beside a window at night. Alcohol became associated with solitude and thought. In some cultures, traditions held firm: small cups, measured pours, respect for limits. Even in busy times, restraint remained a value. At the same time, societies began to notice alcohol's effects more clearly. Science studied the body. Medicine observed balance and harm. Conversations about moderation emerged. This awareness did not reject alcohol, it reframed it. The modern age asked a quiet question: how can something ancient survive in a faster world without losing its meaning? For many, the answer returned to intention: drinking slowly, drinking less, drinking at the edge of the day rather than in the middle of chaos. As nights filled with artificial light, people sought darkness again: candlelight dinners, quiet music, soft conversations. Alcohol found its way back into calm spaces. The old lessons whispered through the modern noise: alcohol belongs to stillness, not escape. When treated as a pause rather than a push, it continued to serve its gentle role. In this way, alcohol's history did not end in the modern age. It adapted quietly, waiting for humans to remember patience once more.
As the story of alcohol moves deeper into the modern human mind, it leaves behind places and bottles and enters something far more subtle: the inner night. Throughout history, alcohol has always followed the edge of the day, the moment when light fades and thoughts grow softer. In this space, alcohol often became a companion to solitude, not loneliness, but the chosen quiet of being alone with one's breath, memories, and passing thoughts. In small rooms lit by a single lamp, people sat by windows and watched streets empty, holding a glass not to forget life, but to slow it. This habit did not appear suddenly. It evolved from centuries of calm use, where alcohol marked endings rather than beginnings. The body, after movement and effort, sought stillness, and alcohol gently mirrored that desire. In these quiet moments, alcohol changed its role again. It was no longer a social bridge or a ritual object. It became reflective. Writers, thinkers, and ordinary people alike noticed how a small amount softened inner noise. Thoughts stretched instead of collided. Memories surfaced gently rather than sharply. Alcohol, when respected, seemed to lower the volume of the world just enough to hear oneself more clearly. This effect, subtle and fragile, depended entirely on balance.
Too much dissolved clarity. Too little changed nothing. The narrow space between became the place of calm. As psychology developed as a field, thinkers began observing the relationship between alcohol and emotion. They noticed that alcohol did not create feelings, it revealed them. In quiet nights, it allowed sadness, nostalgia, gratitude, or peace to rise naturally. This is why alcohol often appeared in moments of reflection rather than joy. A person alone with a glass was rarely seeking excitement. They were seeking stillness or perhaps understanding. Alcohol became a mirror, not an escape. However, modern awareness also brought caution. As life accelerated and nights filled with artificial light and constant sound, alcohol was sometimes used to force calm instead of inviting it. This difference mattered. When alcohol was used to chase silence, it lost its gentle role. The body resisted. The mind grew restless. Ancient wisdom quietly returned through science and reflection. Alcohol works best when it follows calm, not when it is asked to create it. Across cultures, this understanding slowly resurfaced. Mindful drinking movements emerged, though often without naming ancient traditions. People began choosing fewer drinks, slower sips, quieter settings. Alcohol returned to its older rhythm, measured, intentional, and bound to the night. In this form, it became a closing gesture rather than a demand. In solitude, alcohol also became linked with creativity. Many artists described it not as inspiration, but as permission to pause. With the world quiet, a glass nearby, the mind wandered freely. There was no urgency, no performance, just thought drifting like smoke. This state, fragile and temporary, depended on restraint. Excess shattered it. Balance preserved it. Sleep itself became part of alcohol's quiet story. Humans learned that while alcohol might invite drowsiness, true rest required gentleness. Heavy use disrupted sleep's natural rhythm. Light, mindful use allowed the body to transition peacefully. This understanding reshaped nighttime rituals. Water followed wine, silence followed sound, lights dimmed deliberately. As midnight passed and streets emptied, alcohol often sat unfinished on tables. This, too, was a sign of maturity. Not finishing a glass meant the drink had served its purpose. It marked time. It softened edges. It was no longer needed. In this modern reflection, alcohol's ancient lesson became clear again. It was never meant to dominate human nights. It was meant to accompany them quietly, then step aside. Like fire, like music, like conversation, it belonged to moderation. As breathing slowed and thoughts loosened their grip, people set glasses down and turned toward rest. Alcohol remained part of the story, but no longer the focus. The night reclaimed its silence. Awareness settled gently into sleep.
As the long story of alcohol reaches its final moments, it does not end with noise or finality, but with a soft return to where it all began, with time, patience, and quiet observation. Across thousands of years, alcohol has changed shape many times. It has been fruit and grain, ritual and medicine, nourishment and reflection. Yet beneath all these forms, one truth has remained steady. Alcohol reflects the rhythm of the human inner world. When life moved slowly, alcohol followed gently. When life rushed, alcohol sometimes lost its place. And now, in this final reflection, the story turns inward once more. Human history often moves in circles rather than straight lines. What was once understood is forgotten, and what is forgotten quietly returns. In early civilizations, alcohol belonged to the evening. It followed work,
followed sunlight, followed breath. It was never meant to stand alone. It was meant to accompany rest. Over centuries, this understanding faded and reappeared, shaped by culture, knowledge, and awareness. In the modern age, surrounded by constant light and endless motion, many have begun to rediscover this older wisdom, not through tradition, but through experience. At night, when the world finally slows, the body remembers ancient patterns. Breathing deepens, muscles release, thoughts drift instead of racing. In this space, alcohol sometimes appears again, not as a command, but as a quiet presence. A glass poured slowly, a sip taken without urgency. The drink does not ask for attention, it simply marks time, like a candle flame or the ticking of a distant clock. This is where balance lives, not in rules or extremes, but in awareness. Alcohol has never been good or bad on its own. Its nature is reflective. It amplifies what already exists. Calm invites calm. Tension invites tension. When paired with silence, alcohol softens. When paired with noise, it overwhelms. This truth, discovered long ago, remains unchanged. In the final chapters of human use, alcohol is increasingly viewed through the lens of choice, not habit, not pressure, choice. To drink or not to drink, to finish a glass or leave it untouched, to seek warmth without seeking escape. This freedom of choice restores dignity to the act. Alcohol returns to being optional rather than necessary. Sleep itself becomes the final teacher. The body reveals what it needs. Too much alcohol fragments rest. Too little changes nothing. Just enough, taken mindfully, allows the transition from thought to dream to unfold smoothly. This delicate balance cannot be forced. It must be listened to. Across quiet homes, glasses are now often smaller. Lights dim earlier. Silence is welcomed again. These are not trends, but echoes of something older. The human nervous system remembers how to slow down when given permission. Alcohol, when present, follows rather than leads. As the night deepens, alcohol's role fades naturally. It does not demand completion. A glass may remain half full on a table. This unfinished state is meaningful. It signals that the drink has already fulfilled its purpose. Time has been marked. Stillness has arrived. In this final moment, the long history of alcohol dissolves back into the night. There is nothing left to prove, nothing left to pursue. Only rest remains. Breath becomes soft. Thoughts loosen their hold. Awareness gently dims, like a lamp turned low. The story does not truly end here. It continues quietly, each evening, in each mindful pause, in each moment of restraint and reflection. But for now, the telling rests.
As the night extends further into silence, the influence of alcohol becomes more subtle, existing almost as a background hum within the spaces of memory and reflection. In rooms dimly illuminated by candlelight or soft moonbeams, the mind drifts along gentle currents of thought, encountering past evenings, rituals, and pauses that alcohol once marked. Each memory is tinged with quiet warmth, not urgency, and each remembered sip feels like a gentle echo of centuries past. The body relaxes naturally, muscles ease, and breathing steadies. Alcohol, long a companion to human evenings, becomes an invisible presence, reinforcing a sense of calm without demanding attention. Its role is not to command, but to accompany, to support the rhythm of thought and the unfolding of the night. In these hours, memory and awareness merge, creating a meditative space where history is felt more than recalled. The mind moves lightly through recollections of ritual, tradition, and gentle reflection, observing the passage of time without judgment.
The faint warmth of remembered drinks, the careful measures of shared sips, and the quiet acknowledgement of presence become markers of reflection, teaching patience and subtlety. Alcohol's role in these experiences is secondary to the night itself, which holds all memories, sensations, and reflections in patient stillness. The quiet of the evening frames these subtle lessons, allowing awareness to deepen without haste. Modern life may rush, yet the night remains a constant teacher of calm. Even with artificial light and persistent activity outside, the body remembers its older rhythms. In this gentle phase, alcohol does not create stillness, it accompanies it. A sip taken slowly is a signal of intention rather than necessity, an acknowledgement of the passage of time rather than an attempt to alter it. The mind and body align, following a rhythm older than modern schedules, where reflection, patience, and restraint guide the night. Alcohol, present or remembered, softly reinforces these principles, blending seamlessly into the slow unfolding of evening. As consciousness drifts closer to sleep, the significance of alcohol diminishes further. Its historical, cultural, and ritualistic roles fade into a gentle echo, leaving the focus on breath, body, and the quiet unfolding of the present moment. Sleep begins to assert itself through steady rhythm, soft release of tension, and the natural descent into unconsciousness. Alcohol's purpose has been fulfilled. It has accompanied, supported, and marked moments of reflection. What remains is the unbroken flow of night, the gentle rhythm of being, and the complete surrender to rest. Memory, sensation, and reflection merge into a meditative awareness. The lessons of balance, patience, and restraint, learned through centuries of use, become internalized without conscious effort. Alcohol is present only as a soft signal of past practices, a subtle reminder of the art of calm. The night continues, holding all experiences in a seamless continuum, allowing the mind and body to drift deeper into restorative rest. Each inhalation, each exhalation is a guide toward harmony, free from the need for narrative or action. The room, the silence, the night, and the body exist together, uninterrupted and whole. In these hours, human awareness settles into the natural rhythm of night. Alcohol's influence, gentle and reflective, supports this transition without claiming attention. Past traditions, quiet rituals, and reflective moments are absorbed, not analyzed, teaching the subtle art of accompaniment and mindfulness. Sleep, not alcohol, becomes the center of experience. The night carries everything forward, offering a steady, unwavering invitation to rest. History, memory, and presence converge into the simplest truth. The night is enough, and calm is complete. As the night continues, the story of alcohol blends with the soft rhythm of human breathing, the gentle unfolding of memory, and the quiet flow of thought. Alcohol no longer commands attention. It lingers only as a subtle trace, a companion to reflection, rather than a focal point. In quiet rooms, dimly lit by the fading glow of lamps or the soft shine of moonlight, people sit or lie in stillness. Their minds may wander to past evenings, remembered sips, or familiar rituals, but the night itself carries more weight than any history. The body relaxes, muscles loosen, and thoughts lose urgency. Alcohol's ancient role as ritual, medicine, or comfort becomes a background hum, a faint echo of calm past centuries. In this gentle phase, the human mind turns inward. The faint warmth of memory surfaces, evenings spent by fires, small glasses in hand, the soft murmur of others nearby, or complete solitude enveloping the space. The sensations remain vivid without noise. They are felt in the chest, the hands, and the rhythm of breathing. Alcohol's presence in memory is tied to these quiet spaces, to the unspoken pause it once created. The night itself absorbs the story, letting it dissolve into awareness rather than thought. Modern life often rushes forward, yet nights like this remind the body and mind of old patterns. Silence teaches patience. Awareness deepens naturally. Even if alcohol is present, it is no longer for stimulation, but for accompaniment, quietly marking a moment without demanding it. The hand holding a cup, or the memory of one, does not rush the evening. It merely exists alongside the unfolding of night. This is a space of balance, where reflection flows slowly and the body learns to release tension. Alcohol in this context is a bridge to awareness, not a distraction from it. As hours pass, the story of alcohol continues to fade in prominence. The mind drifts further into the sensation of night itself. Sleep begins to assert its gentle pull. Even in rooms where drinks remain, untouched or sipped slowly, the night holds the greater narrative. The rhythm of breathing becomes the anchor. Thoughts no longer command attention. Memory softens. The body surrenders gradually to rest. In these hours, alcohol's history has no need to continue. Its role is complete. Even the act of remembering becomes meditative. Each memory of past evenings, of careful sips, of patient waiting, is observed without judgment. The night absorbs all reflections, the warmth of candlelight, the stillness of rooms, the quiet movement of air, all merge into a continuous, uninterrupted sensation. Alcohol's influence, subtle as it is, enhances the sense of passage without urging action. It exists as a gentle echo, fading naturally into the rhythm of night. In homes, bedrooms, or quiet shared spaces, these experiences unfold individually, yet universally. The pattern is repeated over generations. A glass is set down, firelight dims, breath slows, and history dissolves into the present moment. Alcohol has fulfilled its part. The remaining silence, deeper and broader, invites full attention to sleep. Nothing more is required. The night itself, the quiet and gentle transition from awareness to unconsciousness, holds the final story. Here, in this space of meditative calm, human awareness aligns with the slow pulse of night. Alcohol, long part of rituals and reflection, now becomes almost invisible. Its past roles echo softly, teaching lessons of balance, patience, and the subtle art of accompaniment. These lessons are internalized without force. The body, familiar with the rhythm, guides the mind. Each breath is a marker of transition. Each pause reinforces stillness. The night continues to unfold, slowly, deeply, without need for conclusion. And as the final minutes of consciousness drift toward sleep, the presence of alcohol in memory is purely contemplative. It is warmth remembered, patience learned, reflection acknowledged. The night carries everything forward. History dissolves, leaving only the gentle, natural surrender to rest. All sensations of taste, smell, and warmth return to the folds of memory. The present is nothing but breathing, the pulse of calm, and the infinite quiet of night.
As the night deepens and the hours move quietly forward, the story of alcohol becomes less about events and more about time itself. Time stretches gently in the darkness, no longer measured by clocks, but by breaths, pauses, and the subtle feeling of stillness settling into the body. Alcohol, once present in rituals, celebrations, and long conversations, now exists mostly as a memory of warmth and pause. It is remembered not for its strength, but for the way it marked the end of effort and the beginning of rest. In these late hours, the mind no longer seeks stimulation. It seeks softness, familiarity, and the reassurance that nothing more is required. Across centuries, human beings have shared this same transition from activity to quiet. After work was finished and voices faded, the night welcomed everyone equally.
Alcohol often appeared at this threshold, not to carry people forward, but to help them stop. A small drink signaled that the day was complete. The body understood this signal deeply. Shoulders loosened, breathing slowed. The mind softened its grip on worries and plans. Over time, this association became woven into memory, passed down silently through habit rather than instruction. In modern life, the rhythm has changed, but the body has not forgotten. Even now, when nights are filled with artificial light and endless noise, there comes a moment when awareness turns inward. Alcohol, if present, becomes secondary to the deeper need for rest. The mind begins to release its attachments to thought. Sensations replace ideas. The feeling of the bed, the weight of a blanket, the steady rise and fall of breath take precedence over any remaining stimulation. Alcohol's role fades naturally, as it always has, at the edge of sleep. Memory in these moments is gentle and unforced. The mind may recall evenings long past, quiet rooms, familiar faces, low voices, the soft clink of glass. These memories do not demand interpretation. They drift like slow-moving clouds, carrying no urgency. Alcohol appears within them as part of the atmosphere rather than the focus. What remains strongest is not taste or intoxication, but the sense of being allowed to pause, to exist without purpose for a while. As awareness narrows further, the distinction between past and present begins to blur. History dissolves into sensation. The lessons learned over centuries, moderation, patience, respect for limits, no longer need to be remembered consciously. They are already held in the body. Excess feels heavy. Balance feels light. The body responds instinctively, guiding itself toward what feels calm and sustainable. Alcohol, once a teacher through experience, now steps back, allowing rest to take its place. The night itself becomes the dominant presence. It does not judge how the day was lived or how the evening was marked. It simply offers stillness. In this stillness, the human nervous system finds its natural rhythm again. Heartbeat slows, muscles soften, thoughts become fragmented, then gradually dissolve. Alcohol's long journey through human culture fades into the background, its influence now quiet, integrated, and complete. In countless homes, this same process unfolds quietly. Some nights include a final drink, others do not. The outcome is the same. Sleep arrives when the body is ready. Alcohol does not create this readiness. It may accompany it briefly, but rest belongs to the body alone. This truth, learned slowly over generations, now rests beneath conscious thought, guiding behavior without effort. As the final minutes of wakefulness pass, even reflection becomes unnecessary. The mind no longer forms complete sentences. Images appear and disappear without meaning. The sensation of breathing becomes the only anchor. Alcohol's presence, whether physical or remembered, has fully dissolved. What remains is the simple experience of being alive and at rest, held gently by the night. There is no need for an ending here. The story has done its work. History has softened into understanding. Understanding has softened into calm. And calm now opens naturally into sleep, deep and undisturbed. As the night settles into its deepest hours, awareness becomes less defined, and the story of alcohol continues to fade into the background of human experience. At this point, there is no need to recall dates, traditions, or rituals. What remains is the sensation of calm spreading through the body, guided by slow breathing and the weight of rest. Alcohol, once used to mark transitions between work and rest, now exists only as a gentle memory of pause. It no longer asks for attention. It rests quietly at the edge of consciousness, like a sound heard long ago that no longer needs to be identified. Throughout history, people have always arrived at this moment, the place where thought gives way to sensation. Long after conversations ended and cups were set aside, the night took over completely. The body learned, through repetition, that nothing more was required. Alcohol's role ended before sleep began, leaving the nervous system to settle naturally. This understanding lives deep within the body, passed down not through words, but through rhythm and habit. As breathing slows, this ancient knowledge returns effortlessly. In this state, memory is no longer active. It drifts gently, untethered from meaning. The mind may briefly touch images of past evenings, soft light, quiet rooms, familiar warmth, but these images dissolve almost as soon as they appear. Alcohol within these memories is never dominant. It is simply part of the atmosphere, one small detail among many. The night itself becomes the primary presence, holding everything in a wide, patient silence. The body responds instinctively to this silence. Muscles soften further, the jaw loosens, the shoulders sink. Each breath deepens the sense of safety and release. Alcohol, once associated with relaxation, is no longer necessary. The body has learned a more direct path to calm. Rest now arrives without assistance, guided only by breath and stillness. As awareness narrows, language loses its structure. Thoughts no longer form complete sentences. They become fragments, then sensations, then quiet. Alcohol's long journey through human history dissolves completely here. Its lessons, moderation, balance, respect for limits remain, but without words. They exist as embodied understanding, felt rather than remembered. The night does not distinguish between those who drank and those who did not. It offers the same deep rest to everyone. In this equality, the final meaning of alcohol's history becomes clear. It was never the source of peace, only a temporary companion along the way. True rest has always belonged to the body and the night. As sleep takes over fully, even awareness of breathing fades. The body continues its rhythm on its own. The mind releases its final attachments. There is nothing left to follow, nothing left to understand. The story has reached its quiet completion, not with an ending, but with absence. Here, in this absence, rest is complete. The night holds everything gently. There is no need to return to thought. Sleep arrives, deep and undisturbed, exactly as it should.
As the night reaches its quietest depth, even the idea of history becomes unnecessary. The story of alcohol, once woven through human ritual, culture, and reflection, now dissolves completely into stillness. At this hour, there is no need to remember, analyze, or understand. The body rests in its own rhythm, guided by breath and silence. Alcohol exists only as a distant echo, no longer connected to action or thought, resting softly at the edge of awareness before fading entirely. What remains is the simple sensation of being held by the night. Breathing continues on its own, slow and steady. Each inhale arrives gently. Each exhale releases what little tension remains. The body no longer distinguishes between past and present, between memory and sensation. Everything blends into a single calm experience. Alcohol, once a marker of pause, is no longer required. The pause has arrived naturally. The nervous system settles fully, responding to darkness, quiet, and the absence of demand. In this state,
The mind does not form images or words. Thoughts appear briefly, then dissolve without meaning. There is no attachment to them. The night carries everything away with patience. Alcohol's long journey through human history ends here, not with a conclusion, but with complete integration. Its lessons live quietly in the body, no longer needing expression. The sense of self softens. Awareness becomes diffuse, spreading evenly through the body before gently receding. Muscles remain loose. The face is relaxed. The jaw is unclenched. The weight of the body is fully supported. There is nowhere to go and nothing to do. Sleep deepens without effort. Outside, the world remains still. Inside, the same stillness takes shape. The night does not hurry. It does not ask questions. It simply holds everything. Alcohol, memory, history, and reflection have all stepped aside, allowing rest to take their place. This is the quiet humans have always returned to, regardless of time or culture. As awareness fades further, even breathing becomes something observed only faintly. The body continues its rhythm without instruction. The mind releases its final grip on waking consciousness. There is no transition to notice, no moment to mark. Sleep arrives seamlessly, like darkness settling after the last light has dimmed. Nothing more is required. The story has ended, not with words, but with absence. The night is complete. Rest is complete.
At this depth of night, there is almost nothing left to describe. The body has settled completely into rest, guided by its own natural rhythm. Breathing is slow, quiet, and effortless. Awareness drifts without direction, no longer anchored to memory, story, or meaning. Alcohol, once part of human evenings and pauses, is now entirely absent, not pushed away, simply no longer needed. Its long history has dissolved into the background of the body's wisdom, leaving behind only calm. Thoughts appear rarely now, and when they do, they are soft and incomplete. They pass without engagement, like distant sounds heard through sleep. The mind does not follow them. It does not ask questions. It does not search for understanding. The night holds everything gently, allowing consciousness to loosen its final threads. Muscles remain relaxed. The heartbeat is steady. There is a deep sense of safety in stillness. In this space, even memory rests. There are no images to revisit, no past moments to recall. The distinction between inside and outside fades. The room, the body, and the darkness blend into one quiet presence. Alcohol's story, once told in many forms, has become unnecessary here. Its lessons have already been absorbed. Balance, restraint, and awareness exist now as instinct rather than thought. The breath continues, smooth and even. Each exhale releases the smallest remaining traces of tension. Each inhale arrives without effort. The body knows exactly what to do. Sleep deepens naturally, without transition or signal. There is no moment to notice falling asleep. Awareness simply thins, like mist dissolving into air. The night feels wide and endless, yet gentle. Time has no meaning here. There is no before and no after, only rest, only quiet. Alcohol, history, language, and identity have all stepped aside. What remains is the simplest state of being, present without awareness, calm without effort. Silence is complete now. Even these words fade as soon as they are heard.
Nothing more is required. The body sleeps. The mind rests. The night continues.
The night is now settled so deeply that even stillness feels soft. Breathing continues without awareness, slow and steady, like a distant tide that no longer needs watching. The body is fully supported, heavy in a comfortable way, resting exactly where it belongs. There is no effort anywhere. Alcohol, once part of evenings and pauses, has long since vanished from attention. Not removed, not rejected, simply unnecessary. Its story has dissolved into the same silence that holds everything else. Thought does not form here. If anything appears at all, it is only a faint sensation, passing before it can be named. The mind does not follow. It does not respond. The night carries it away gently. Muscles remain loose. The face is relaxed. The jaw rests open or softly closed. The shoulders sink further, as if gravity itself has slowed. There is no memory to revisit and no future to approach. Time has flattened into a single, continuous rest. The body's rhythms continue on their own. Heartbeat calm, breath even, warmth steady. Alcohol's lessons of balance and pause are no longer ideas. They are simply part of the body's knowing, quiet and complete. The space around feels wide and empty, yet safe. Darkness is not something to notice anymore. It is simply present. The room, the night, and the body feel indistinguishable, blended into one quiet field. Language fades further. Even listening fades. Sleep holds everything without effort. If awareness briefly returns, it does so softly, without shape. Then it drifts away again, unimportant. Nothing needs attention. Nothing asks to be held. Alcohol, history, identity, and thought have all stepped aside, leaving only rest. Silence continues. The night remains. Sleep deepens on its own.
The night has moved beyond depth into completeness. Breathing happens quietly, evenly, without notice. The body rests fully supported, heavy and calm, as if the surface beneath has become part of it. There is no attention directed anywhere. Awareness, if it appears at all, is faint and brief, dissolving before it can take shape. Alcohol, history, memory, and story are no longer present, even as ideas. They have settled into the body's understanding and disappeared into rest. There is no effort in the breath. Inhale arrives. Exhale releases. Nothing is held. Nothing is resisted. Muscles remain loose. The face is smooth. The jaw rests. The shoulders sink naturally, guided only by gravity and safety. The night surrounds everything without edge or boundary. Thought does not return. If a sensation flickers, it passes without direction. There is no curiosity, no reaction. The mind does not reach outward or inward. It remains quiet, suspended in sleep. Time does not move here. There is only a continuous, unbroken stillness. The body's rhythms continue perfectly on their own. Heartbeat steady, warmth consistent, breath slow. Everything functions without awareness. Alcohol's long journey through human life has ended far behind this moment. Its purpose has been fulfilled and forgotten. What remains is rest, complete and sufficient. The night holds everything gently. Darkness is no longer perceived. Silence is no longer noticed. There is nothing to follow, nothing to understand. Sleep remains deep, wide, and undisturbed. The night remains steady and complete. Breathing moves softly in and out,
unobserved, unforced. The body rests in perfect stillness, supported and safe. There is no sense of direction, no need for awareness. Alcohol, history, and memory have fully dissolved, leaving no trace to follow. What remains is the quiet functioning of life at rest. There is no return of thought. If a sensation arises, it fades before it can be noticed. The mind does not engage. It stays settled, suspended in deep sleep. Time does not pass here in any measurable way. The night feels endless, gentle, and stable. The body's rhythms continue effortlessly. Heartbeat remains calm. Warmth remains even. Breath remains slow. Nothing needs adjustment. Everything knows what to do. Alcohol's story, once present across centuries, is no longer relevant in this space. Its influence has already been absorbed and released. Silence is complete. Darkness is complete. There is no contrast, no edge, no beginning or ending. Sleep holds everything without effort.
The night continues without change, without urgency, without direction. Breathing flows gently in and out, steady and quiet, happening entirely on its own. The body rests deeply now, fully supported by the surface beneath it, heavy in a comfortable, reassuring way. There is no need to adjust, no need to move, no need to respond to anything at all. Awareness has softened to the point where it no longer searches for meaning. It simply exists, drifting gently within the safety of rest. Alcohol, history, and memory are no longer present as ideas. They have dissolved completely, leaving behind only the calm rhythm of a body at ease. Time no longer moves in a way that can be noticed. Minutes and hours lose their shape, blending together into one long, continuous stretch of night. The mind does not track this passage. It does not measure or compare. It remains settled, suspended in deep sleep. If awareness briefly appears, it does so softly, without thought or curiosity, and then fades again without resistance. Nothing interrupts the calm. Nothing demands attention. The breath remains slow and natural. Each inhale arrives gently, filling the body just enough. Each exhale releases everything unnecessary. There is no holding, no effort, no control. The nervous system rests in its most natural state, guided by darkness, silence, and safety. Alcohol's long presence in human evenings has no place here. Its role ended long before this depth of rest was reached. What remains is the body's own ability to calm itself completely. The muscles stay relaxed, the face remains soft, the jaw is loose. The shoulders sink further, supported by gravity and stillness. There is a sense of being held, not by thought or intention, but by the night itself. The room feels distant and unimportant. Inside and outside blend together, losing their boundaries. The night becomes a wide, quiet space where nothing needs to happen. Silence is no longer noticed. Darkness is no longer perceived. These elements simply exist, constant and neutral. The mind does not respond to them. It does not label or react. Sleep continues uninterrupted, deep and stable. Alcohol's history, once layered with rituals, cultures, and meanings, is now completely irrelevant. Its lessons have already been absorbed into the body's understanding of balance and rest. The heartbeat remains calm and regular. Warmth stays evenly distributed throughout the body. There is no discomfort, no alertness, no tension. Everything functions exactly as it should,
without awareness. The body knows how to rest. It does not need guidance or reminders. This state has existed across all of human history, regardless of tools, substances, or traditions. If a dream begins to form, it does so quietly, without disturbance. If no dream appears, rest remains just as deep. There is no difference. Sleep does not require imagery or story. It simply continues. Alcohol, memory, and identity do not participate here. They remain outside this space, unnecessary and forgotten. The night feels endless in the best possible way. There is no anticipation of morning, no sense of waiting. The body remains fully present in rest, unconcerned with what comes next. This is not emptiness, but completeness. Everything needed is already here. Breathing continues. Rest continues. Silence continues. The night holds everything without effort. As this long stretch of stillness continues, nothing changes, and that is exactly what allows sleep to remain so deep. No new sensations arise, no thoughts return. The mind stays settled, unresponsive, peaceful. Alcohol's history, once intertwined with human evenings, no longer exists even as a memory. It has been fully released. The body remains heavy and comfortable. Limbs feel distant, almost weightless in their heaviness. The sense of self is faint, barely present. There is no need to locate the body or define its edges. Everything blends into rest. Time continues to pass unnoticed. The night remains wide and quiet. Sleep stays deep and unbroken. Nothing needs to be said, nothing needs to be done. The night continues without interruption. Breathing flows gently, calm and steady. The body rests fully, heavy and supported. Awareness drifts softly, fading into quiet. Alcohol, history, memory, all exist only as distant echoes. They do not demand attention. They have been absorbed and released. Thoughts do not form. Sensations appear only briefly, fading immediately. The mind remains settled. Muscles relax further. The jaw softens. Shoulders sink. Limbs rest. The heartbeat slows. Warmth remains even. Time loses meaning. Sleep deepens naturally. The room, the night, and the body blend into one space of calm. Shadows and darkness are neutral, unnoticeable. Silence is complete. There is nothing to follow, nothing to understand. Sleep continues effortlessly. The centuries-long journey of alcohol exists only as peace, absorbed into the body's rhythms. Every breath guides deeper rest. The mind, the body, the night, they are one. Awareness thins and fades. The quiet is uninterrupted. Sleep holds everything.
The night stretches onward, endless and calm. Breathing moves gently in and out, unnoticed and effortless. The body rests fully, heavy yet supported, embraced by stillness. There is no need to think, to remember, or to act. Awareness is soft and drifting. The story of alcohol, from ancient times through the centuries, continues quietly, fading into memory. Its presence is not in action or sound, but in the gentle imprint it has left in human history. It has become part of the fabric of rest, not as an influence, but as a background, absorbed and dissolved. The mind does not need to follow. Thoughts, if they appear, are fleeting and soft, fading as quickly as they arise.
the body, the night, and the quiet room merge into a single, continuous space of calm. Alcohol, history, memory, all exist only as echoes, no longer demanding attention or understanding. Each breath guides the listener deeper into rest. Muscles relax further. The heartbeat slows. Limbs sink comfortably. The body remembers balance instinctively. The night holds it all without effort or expectation. Time has lost all edges. Hours may pass unnoticed, blending seamlessly into one another. The historical journey of alcohol is now abstract, absorbed into the stillness. Ancient villages, scrolls, cups, and ceremonies fade behind the mind's awareness. The listener is no longer following a narrative. They are experiencing rest itself. The quiet continues uninterrupted as the night carries the body and mind deeper into sleep. The body's rhythms remain perfectly stable. Breath in, breath out, heartbeat steady, warmth even. There is no need to control, no need to adjust. Sleep continues effortlessly, each moment holding the next in gentle, unbroken calm. Alcohol's centuries-long journey has left its trace not as action, but as the understanding that rest and balance are natural, timeless states. The night feels wide, boundless, and safe. Shadows and darkness blend with soft moonlight, undisturbed by thought or perception. Sleep deepens further with each passing moment. The mind no longer distinguishes between past and present. Memory, history, and identity dissolve into quiet. Alcohol, once a presence in human life, has fully stepped aside, leaving only peace. Silence remains complete. Nothing demands attention. The night continues, steady, slow, and embracing. Every breath is part of a gentle cycle, guiding the body deeper, ensuring uninterrupted rest. There is no narrative tension, no need for focus. The story has merged fully with the experience of sleep itself.
The night is quiet and endless. Breathing flows on its own. The body rests fully, heavy, supported, and calm. Awareness fades completely. Alcohol, history, memory, all have dissolved. Nothing demands attention. Nothing exists except the gentle rhythms of rest. Thoughts do not arise. Sensations, if any, are soft and fleeting. Muscles remain relaxed. The heartbeat is steady. Limbs sink comfortably. Time has no meaning. Sleep continues naturally, deep and unbroken. The room, the night, and the body blend into one calm space. Darkness is neutral. Silence is complete. There is nothing to follow, nothing to remember, nothing to act upon. Sleep holds everything effortlessly. Every breath guides further into stillness. Awareness thins, fades, and disappears. Peace remains uninterrupted.
The night remains exactly as it is, quiet, steady, and complete. Breathing continues softly, rising and falling without effort, without awareness. Each inhale arrives with ease. Each exhale releases what is no longer needed. The body rests fully supported, heavy in a comfortable way, as if it is settled into the night itself. Awareness thins and drifts, no longer attaching to thought or sensation. The long history of alcohol, once woven through centuries of human life, has fully dissolved into the background, leaving no story to follow and no meaning to process. What remains is the simple rhythm of rest. Time stretches without edges. Minutes and hours blend into one continuous, gentle flow. The mind does not measure or remember. It stays settled, calm, and still. Muscles remain relaxed. The face is soft, the jaw is loose. Shoulders sink naturally. Limbs rest without weight or tension. Heartbeat remains steady. Warmth stays even throughout the body. Everything functions perfectly on its own, guided by silence and darkness. The space around fades into neutrality. The room, the night, and the body merge into one quiet field of calm. Shadows are unnoticed. Silence is complete. There is nothing to listen for and nothing to respond to. Sleep deepens naturally, held by the slow rhythm of breath and the steady safety of the night. Any remaining sense of identity or memory softens and releases, dissolving gently into rest. Breathing continues. Rest continues. The night continues. There is no anticipation of morning, no awareness of passing time. Sleep exists fully in this moment, uninterrupted and sufficient. The centuries-long journey of alcohol has ended far beyond this state, leaving only balance, quiet, and peace absorbed into the body's natural understanding. Silence holds everything. Darkness holds everything. Sleep holds everything. Nothing more is required.
The night stretches endlessly, steady and unbroken. Breathing flows naturally, quietly, and without awareness. Each inhale arrives gently. Each exhale releases completely. The body is fully supported, heavy yet comfortable, sinking into the surface beneath it. Awareness softens, drifting like a leaf on a calm stream, allowing the mind to release all attention. The long journey of alcohol through history exists only as a quiet imprint, dissolved into the stillness of the night. It is not remembered, analyzed, or acted upon. Instead, it becomes part of the background, seamlessly integrated into the listener's state of rest. Thoughts do not need to form. If they appear, they fade immediately without significance. Muscles relax fully. The jaw softens. Shoulders descend. Limbs rest. Heartbeat slows. Warmth remains constant. Time stretches without edges or markers, blending minutes and hours into one continuous flow. Sleep deepens naturally, guided by the gentle rhythm of breath and the quiet embrace of the night. There is no need to follow a story or retain memory. Everything is absorbed into calm, stillness, and safety. The space around, the room, the night, the darkness, merges into one vast, serene field. Shadows are neutral and quiet. Silence is complete. There is nothing to act upon, nothing to respond to, nothing to consider. Sleep continues effortlessly, deepening further with each breath. The historical presence of alcohol, once woven into human rituals, culture, and daily life, has long since faded. Its lessons exist only in the body's inherent sense of balance and rest, absorbed and released without thought. Breath continues, heartbeat continues, warmth continues. The body maintains itself perfectly. Every exhale releases any lingering tension. Every inhale fills softly. The mind remains calm, not seeking, not processing. Sleep holds the body and consciousness completely. Darkness and silence are embraced without resistance. Awareness thins, fades, and blends into the deep rhythm of night. There is no need for words, no need for understanding, no need for focus. The night is continuous, unbroken, and infinitely patient. The body rests deeply. The mind rests deeply. Sleep exists fully, uninterrupted, without edges, without time, without memory. Each moment guides the listener further into a state of restorative, peaceful calm. The long history of alcohol, stretching across centuries and cultures, has dissolved entirely into the quiet rhythm of existence. Only the experience of rest remains, expansive, deep, and complete. Silence holds everything. Darkness holds everything. Breath holds everything. Sleep holds everything. There is nothing else required.